Well, good morning. This is David Owens with University of Delaware Extension Entomology. And today I wanted to show you some of the watermelon research and describe it that we've been doing this summer, along with a graduate student of mine, Cody Stubbs. Cody, come on in here and get you in the frame. So one of the major pests on watermelons is two-spotted spider mite. And so we've been surveying commercial fields. We've also been doing miticide trials here on station. And we've been doing some work with beneficial mites that eat spider mites. In our mite trials this year, agromec has looked really good. Acromite has looked pretty good. Portal was not quite as good as those two products. And then Zeal takes a little bit longer to work, but once it starts working, it's a very good miticide. Zeal and Oberon are both ovicides, which means they kill eggs, they don't kill adults, so it takes them a little while to cause a mite population to go down. When we sample for two-spot spider mite, early in the season we take crown leaves. Later in the season it's not as important. In watermelons we use a threshold of around 50% of plants with mites and 1 to 2 mites on a crown leaf early in the season. Late in the season, I think there's not a good established threshold. If you're starting to see abundant mites, it might be worthwhile hitting them, especially when we have hot, dry weather. Their populations can increase extremely rapidly. This here is a leaf that you can see some stippling on the leaf surface, which is indicative of two-spot spider mite. But often, especially on older leaves, like this one here, you won't see that nice stippling until you have a very high mite population. And then what you're more likely to see is broad areas of yellowing. You don't want the leaf to get to this stage. These plants already have a very high mite population on them. It's going to be hard to control even with our best products. In this particular field, we've released some beneficial mites, and I'm going to turn it over to Cody Stubbs to describe some of the work that he's been doing, both here on station and also in commercial fields as part of his master's project with University of Delaware.
And part of my master thesis is studying how the effectiveness of two predatory mites on two-spotted spider mites here on station, and as well as checking commercial growers' fields for two-spotted spider mite for geospatial mapping. So here on station, I have 3 plots similar to the one behind me, and each one has a different combination of 2 of the predatory mites. There's Predatory persimilis and Neoscilus phallacis. So the plot behind me has Neoscilus phallacis. Further down it's Predatory persimilis, and then a combination of the 2 predatory mites. And what we're trying to test here on station is to see which one is effective, how they may work together in controlling two-spotted spider mites. We're also have 2 different treatments where we see how well they do when using insecticides that may eliminate the predatory mites, or ones that are more friendly to predatory mites. See which works better. And now for the commercial growers, we go to currently 5 different growers and check a certain amount of spots to see how exactly the spider mites are moving through their respective fields. And that helps us figure out if maybe, like if they use transplants, maybe the area or the location they got the transplants from may have already had spider mites. Say there's just a population in the middle of the field for some reason, but nowhere else. But it also helps to see where they're coming from. Perhaps they're coming from a forested area, because that's where they'll hang out when the summer time's over. And it just gives a better idea of how they move and where is best to focus when trying to manage them.
All right, well, thanks, Cody. One more thing I wanted to mention is that we've got some plots out here in which we're maintaining spider mites at different levels. So we're trying to keep spider mites completely out of some watermelons, maintain them at very low numbers, around 2 mites per leaf in another plot, and then in a third plot, we're doing very minimum spider mite management. And we're taking the plants to yield to see if the spider mites are affecting weights or sugar content in the harvested melons. All of this research has been funded largely by Delaware Department of Ag through the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program, and I want to thank them for their generous support.